Good evening. Welcome to Current Affairs. Today is July 12th, 2017. As we all know that GST has been launched on July 1st, 2017. And of course, we have discussed certain points regarding GST. And July 1st will be celebrated as GST Day from next year onwards. So we have seen some points. So, but I would like to have some clarity on this GST. So as I told you in the earlier classes that it is definitely going to take some time. So to get the complete clarity. So, but as a citizens of India, so it's our responsibility to know what exactly is happening. So whenever we speak about the taxes, there are always two kinds of taxes. One is the direct one and the second one is the indirect one. So whatever we are discussing now, that is the GST, is a form of indirect tax. So otherwise you have this customs duty, excise, service tax, like entertainment tax. So many indirect taxes are there in India. There is a lot of confusion. So who is taxing and who has to pay? So whether we are being charged more. So lots of confusion was there. And that is the reason why, in order to remove this confusion, for quite a long period of time in India, so we have been discussing the concept of GST, that is goods and services tax. And finally, it became a reality now. So it is being implemented. It is being implemented in India today. So because lots of students have requested me so to go back to this GST once again. Please give us some fundamentals, then let's go for analysis. That is the reason why today I would like to take up this session on GST, where I am going to give you brief introduction, which was already discussed in the earlier classes. So for the benefit of the students who joined recently, I would like to give some little introduction regarding GST, and then we'll go into the details of this GST. Right. So in fact, the concept of GST is already existing in some countries, especially in the developed nations. So why can't it be used in India? Otherwise, what happens? There were multiple taxes that were present in India. And whenever multiple taxes are there, so we are being taxed again and again. That's again on the name of the cess, that is nothing but the tax and tax surcharges. So many charges are being imposed on the people, and that led to the lots of burden on the people. So in order to reduce that burden, one concept is that introduce GST. And that concept of GST was first discussed in India in the year 2000 when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister of India. Later in the year 2003, introduction of GST was recommended by a committee called Kelkar Committee. So this may be a possible question in any forthcoming examination. Please remember this. So they may ask you, so which is the committee? And the answer is the Kelkar Committee, right? So that's point number one. Next is that, so obviously when you have too many taxes, so people are really confused. Government itself is confused. Government means what? I am discussing about both the central government and also the state governments. Since India is a federation, since the powers are divided between the central government and state governments, both the central government and state governments are empowered to impose and collect the taxes. And we are paying the taxes. That is the reason why. So there are so many taxes. So in order to reduce the burden on the people, number one, in order to go for unified tax regime in the country, the government for quite a long period of time is trying to introduce the concept called GST. Though the idea was first generated in India during the time of Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, that idea continued even the term of during the term of Mr. Dr. Manmohan Singh when he was the Prime Minister. So for 10 years when he was the Prime Minister, there was a very serious discussion on this. But because there were certain loopholes in the GST with respect to how you will fulfill the loss that is being incurred by the states. So there was no answer by that government during that time. That was the reason why states did not accept for that. That was the reason why it could not get materialized at the time. But now, after this, after the year 2014, after the new government has been formed, so there was a very serious discussions between central government and state governments. And finally, central government was successfully convinced the states that whatever the loss that you are going to incur with the introduction of the GST for the coming 5 years, that the loss will be fulfilled by the so-called the central government. And within a short period of time, the states, as far as our present day expectations are concerned, the states will also start getting more revenue within a period of 3 years. And cushioning period 2 more years is given if there is there is an incurring of the loss by the state governments, that will be taken care by the central government for the coming 5 years. So this is the basic. So that is the thing. And what is this tax structure? First of all, if you want to impose a tax, first of all, the tax has to be mentioned in the constitution. But since this is a unified tax, where do you introduce and how do you do it? That is the reason why we had to go for the constitutional amendment. And finally, 122nd constitutional amendment bill, it was introduced in the parliament, passed in the parliament. Since this is a bill that is mentioning about the federation concept, federal concept, where states are also involved, this bill, after it was passed by both the houses of the parliament with a special majority, it was sent to the state legislatures, and it was accepted by the required number of state legislatures, right? And after that, it went to the President of India. President has signed 122nd Constitution Amendment Bill, and it became 101 Constitution Amendment Act. So many times, so many people have asked me this question, sir, at some places you are saying 122 and at other place you are saying 101. What is the difference between these two? My dear close friends, please remember this. You know the difference between bill and act. Clear during our Indian polity classes, I told you, I made it very clear that every bill that is introduced in the parliament may not become an act. There are so many instances where the bills were rejected. And if the bill is rejected, that will not become an act. Right? So that is the reason why when we are introducing this GST bill, it was numbered as 122nd Constitution Amendment Bill. Right? And finally, it became an act after it was passed by both the houses of the parliament, after it was accepted by, after it was ratified by required number of state legislatures, and finally the President, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, has given his assent. Finally, it became an act. So when it becomes an act, again you need to have a serial number, and that serial number is 101 Constitution Amendment Act. Right? Now, majority of you may have some question. If it is asked in the examination, what should we write? Shall I write 122 or should I go for 101? Yes, obviously, that's a question for you. Kindly read the question carefully. Kindly read the question carefully and look at the question, whether the question is related to bill or act. If it is a bill, go for 122. If it is an act, go for 101. That's it. Am I clear? But since you know it has already been passed now, they may not ask you regarding the number of the bill. They may ask you regarding the so-called the number of this act. But anyways, since this is a very, very important point, this is a possible question in any forthcoming examination. Hence, I request you to remember both the numbers, number of the bill and also number of the act. Am I clear? And this act has introduced various GSTs. Like one is the central GST, goods and service tax, state GST, Third one is the integrated GST, that is called IGST, and the next one is the union territories GST. Like this, various GSTs have been introduced, and everything will be monitored very carefully by GST Council. Right, and please remember, one possible question in the examination is that who is the chairman? Who is the chairman of a GST Council? Please remember, it is the Union Finance Minister. Union Finance Minister is the chairman, and all states finance ministers are members. Please remember this, including the finance minister of Delhi and also Pondicherry, right? And these are the two union territories with the legislatures and council of ministers. So please remember, so from 31 places you have the finance ministers, and all these finance ministers are the members in the GST Council. Okay, so kindly remember this, and I would like to show you the document now, and I repeat, some points in the beginning, whatever I am going to show you, these points have already been shown to you, and these points have already been shared with you in the in the form of notes of previous months, and this is for the sake of the students who joined newly. And let me show them these points, then we'll go ahead for further discussion. Right now, entire country is talking only about this GST now, right? Still there is lots of confusion, and that confusion will be cleared within a very short period of time. And kindly remember, whenever such a big reform take place in the country, it definitely takes some time for adjusting. Demonetization, what happened? November 8th, all of a sudden, demonetization. This high currency notes have been demonetized, and obviously that was a big shock. And for a period of time, so there was a confusion, there was a chaos. People, they got troubled. There's no doubt about this in saying people were troubled because of this. But still, people cooperated with the government, and today, in majority of the areas, the things have been settled. But the only thing is that, we are getting more high currencies. That's right. Right, so we're getting high currencies, but we require it's a low denomination currencies, right? So please look at the document, right? GST stands for Goods and Services Tax, and for the Prime Minister of India, it is a good and simple tax. So this is what the Prime Minister has said. So when he was speaking at the midnight of June 30th, right, July 1st early hours, in this parliamentary central hall. So when he was speaking, so he said that it's a good and simple tax, right? Of course, kindly remember, whenever we introduce something, there are advantages and also disadvantages. After some time, we'll see both advantages and also the disadvantages. But I would like to show you some these basic points with respect to GST. Look at this. Okay, so it was introduced from July 1st, 2017. Kindly remember the date, and July 1st is going to be celebrated as a GST day. Right, look at this. GST was first recommended in the year 2003 by a committee called Kelkar Task Force on Indirect Taxes. This is one possible question, and I want you, my dear close friends, please remember this. So this is the tax that is levied on goods and services. This would be a single and comprehensive tax, and it will subsume all other indirect taxes. So this is the 122nd Constitutional Amendment Bill. It became 101 Amendment Act. So this is a GST is a destination-based tax. Only value addition will be taxed. The final tax burden will be borne by the consumer. See here. So previously, what used to happen? This is called, this cascading effect. So tax and tax, again tax and tax, lots of the prices of the commodities will increase. So now, this cascading effect will be removed because of this GST, and tax will be added only to the value that is added. Clear? So what do you mean by this? Say for example, somebody has purchased, the industry people have purchased raw material at the rate of 100 rupees. And on that one, so they might have paid 10% as a tax. Example, I'm telling you. And so when they are selling, when they are selling it to this wholesaler, so you are selling at the rate of 110 rupees, right? 110 rupees. Plus you are adding some more 10 rupees, that is for your profit. And say for example, you are selling at the rate of this 115 or 120, say for example. Now when that person is selling it to the retailer, he will be adding 10% of the tax only to the additional one, not onto the total one. So previously for the total amount of 120 rupees, so they used to add the tax. So but now only for the value added you are adding the tax, because for the first one you already paid the tax. Clear? So meaning you are removing this cascading effect. So that's a beautiful thing. So at the end of the day, what will happen? So the total price of the product will be reduced very, very drastically. Right? So it takes some time for the people to understand. So now, but you must be questioning now, when you are saying that the prices will be reduced, why the prices are increased for some commodities now? You may be questioning. Because so we have introduced 4 slabs: 5%, 12%, 18%, and 28%. And some are zero based. And for gold, that is called bullion market, you have 3%. And petroleum, crude oil and its products, they are not coming under the GST. So still there is a variation. That is the reason why the biggest criticism is that when you are saying one nation, one tax, one market. One nation, one market, one tax. One nation is fine, we agree. And one market is fine, we agree. One tax, where is this one tax? Right? You are saying 5%, 12%, 18%, and 28%. Plus some are coming under zero, that's okay. Bullion, that is gold, and others, jewelry, they are coming under 3%. Petroleum, crude oil and its products, they are not coming under the GST. Then where is that? Where is the one tax regime? So this is the biggest question. Actually, the government was planning for introduce only 2 slabs. But finally, if they introduce 2 slabs at this stage, it will be a big loss to the government. That is the reason why they have deliberately went for the this 4 slabs. Maybe over a period of time, maybe after 8 years, 9 years, or 10 years, this 4 maybe this reduced to 2, right? And it takes very long period for a country like India so to reduce that to one slab, right? Now kindly have a look at this. Kindly see here, GST is really a typical one. It takes some time to understand. So whatever the notes, whatever the points that you are looking at on the screen now, this is already shared with you in the earlier months. Okay, so kindly read that. Right. So only value addition will be taxed. The final tax burden is borne by the consumer. GST types: CGST, that is Central Goods and Services Tax. This is levied by the center on intrastate supply of goods and services. Intrastate means within the state. SGST stands for State Goods and Services Tax, levied by the states on the supply of the goods and services. And IGST stands for Integrated Goods and Services Tax. It is levied by the center on interstate supply of goods and services, right? So interstate means among various states. And last one, if you can look at this, It is the UTGST. It stands for Union Territories GST, and it was introduced by this GST Council to levy a tax in the Union Territories of Chandigarh, Lakshadweep, Daman and Diu, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Right? So hopefully you can see very clearly that Pondicherry, that is Puducherry and Delhi, they are not included. They are coming under the concept of SGST. Simple. UTGST is nothing but it will be levied in the place of SGST. In states, you call it SGST. In union territories, other than Delhi and Pondicherry, you are calling it UTGST. Look at this. So CGST, IGST is levied and administered by the so-called central government. SGST is levied and administered by state government. CGST and SGST are taxed simultaneously. And whenever you are going for the GST council, kindly remember the quorum should be half. The quorum should be half. Please remember this. You know what is the meaning of the quorum. Quorum means minimum strength of the council, right? At least half the members must present. Then only they will be allowed to take the decisions. And if you look at the weightage of the votes, right? Weightage is given to the states. Clear? So weightage is given to the states, and central government is, they have the 1/3, and the states will have 2/3. Very important. And what are the taxes that are going to be subsumed? Already subsumed, in fact, at the central level, it is the central excise duty, additional excise duty, service tax, additional customs duty, commonly known as countervailing duty, and special additional duty of customs, right? And at the state level, VAT, sales tax, value added tax or the sales tax, entertainment tax, central sales tax, octroi and entry tax. In fact, this entry tax is a big relief. In fact, it's a big relief. Otherwise, you might have seen from one state to the other state with the vehicles, right? So if the trucks are moving, which are carrying the goods, so they stand in long queues. So, right, so lots of verification will take place, and they have to pay the required fee, right? And lots of headache will be there, and all this headache will be gone now. And the traveling time of the vehicles from one state to the other state is going to be reduced very drastically, right? In the beginning, I told you, so these toll gates have been removed. What do you call? These are called checkposts. Checkposts have been removed, and these 22 states have abolished the checkpost, right? And the remaining states are also going to do this, right? Now, next one. Have a look at this. Look at this. Okay, so purchase tax, luxury tax, and taxes on lotteries, betting and gambling, all these are going to be subsumed, and on all these places you will have only one tax, that is called GST. Look at this. So this is a tax reform. In fact, it's a very, very, very major tax reform in India, and it will ease the tax burden. It will make compliance simple. It reduces the multitudes of taxes levied by both the governments. As we discussed so far, taxes so far are this imposed by both the central government and state governments. Streamlining and modernizing the tax administration. Business entities can take the credit for tax paid along the supply chain, so to prevent the cascading effect. See here, what do you mean by this tax credit? I told you already. So maybe the manufacturer, manufacturer has already paid, say for example, 10% tax. Example. So when he is selling it to the wholesaler, so obviously previously the wholesaler has to pay the tax on the total amount. But since the 10% tax is already paid by this manufacturer here, so that a 10% tax will be avoided. Clear? So meaning is simple, the wholesaler is showing that since 10% is already paid by the manufacturer, so he need not pay that 10%. Am I clear? Very, 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 very important. And he is paying only on the value addition. Is that okay? And showing it to the government that the manufacturer has already paid the 10% is nothing but the tax credit. Am I clear? Very, 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 very important. Now, look at this. Okay. So credit for the taxes paid along the supply chain to prevent the cascading effect, and this what is called tax credit. This will continue throughout the chain from manufacturer to the wholesaler, wholesaler to the retailer, retailer to the end consumer. So for the entire chain, so this input credit or tax credit will be continued. Right. Look at this. So now what exactly is the problem? So let's think on this. We say that one nation, one market, and one tax. Clear? One nation, one market, one tax, goods. So this is the slogan that has been given by the government. One nation, fine. Yes, wonderful. One market is good, but where is one tax? That is a problem here. Clear? That's the reason why. So we have various tax slabs. I told you already. 5%, 12%, 18%, and 28%. All right, and apart from this, I already told you, so you have 3% on this bullion. And petroleum products, so they are excluded from, they are not covered under this GST. So that is the reason why the biggest criticism is that where is this one tax? Clear? And of course, the government has its own reasons, that it went for various tax slabs. So this is only to see that government should not be under loss because of this biggest tax reform. All right. I'll show the document once again. Look at this. So there are 4 slabs. Please remember, this one I explained you many number of times. 5%, 12%, 18%, and 28%. Zero rate on articles of mass consumption. 3% on bullion. Census on articles such as tobacco products. This is called census. Crude petroleum and its products, which contribute more than 1/3 of all the tax revenues in India, are out of GST regime. If this petroleum products, if they are brought under GST, then what will happen is that the prices of the petroleum products will be reduced very drastically. So now central government is charging, state government is charging, hugely charging. At least by 40 to 50%, the petroleum products prices will be reduced. Is that okay? So this is one criticism against the so-called the government. Next, look at this. So what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? This advantages are it will create unified common national market. Agreed. To make India a manufacturing hub, and it boosts investment and economy. High number of items are either tax exempted or in 5% bracket. Larger number of items are present here. Clear? This 18% and below, 81% are covered here. So, and the common procedure for registration, duty payment, and return filing and refund of the taxes, right? And of course, this has to be tested and verified, because it's too early to talk about this, because one thing is that GSTN is not tested properly, and the people are also not this are trained properly. So we need to wait and watch. But otherwise, these are all considered to be the advantages. But what are all the disadvantages? Since there are so many this tax slabs, and for certain areas the taxes have been increased very drastically. That's the reason why it may lead to tax evasion. Already some people in the country, the businessmen in the country, they are already experienced with respect to tax evasion. So that may be further increased, right? And it will be a big hardship for the small business people, whether it is small entity, medium entity, larger entity. You have to pay the taxes. That's it. If you are crossing, 20 lakhs turnover per annum. Next is the multiple rates would increase litigation. It is going to create another problem, and it will lead to lobbying to shift goods or services into other brackets. Obviously, what will happen, right? And see, generally, what will happen is that definitely lobbying will take place. Certain items are, they are covered under, this 12%, 18%, 28%. Why 28%? Please shift this to 18%. From 18 to, please shift this to 12%. So lobbying will take place. That is the reason why just before launch of this GST, the tax on tractors, which was originally decided as 28%, that has been reduced to 18%. Right? All this happened because of the lobbying. Lobbying is a very, very powerful force, and sometimes, the government had to bend its head before that, right? And look at this, right? So just before the launch of GST, tax on tractors was reduced from 28 to 18%. Look at this. Originally, it was decided to have only two tax regimes, one for raw materials and inputs, and the other for goods and services, which are meant for final consumption. This was the original idea, and later it has been changed, and finally we have introduced four tax slabs plus 3% on bullion plus crude oil, petroleum products. It has been exempted from this. It is out of the purview of the GST. That is the reason why it will definitely take some time for the nation to get adjusted to this, but hopefully the people will cooperate with the government, traders will cooperate with the government, and one thing is that honesty is the best policy. The people should pay, traders should pay, then only more taxes will be reaching to the government, then government will be able to perform its welfare activities in a better form. So once the government started receiving more funds, there may be a possibility in future over a period of time that this tax burden will be reduced. Since the government is obviously, what happens now, if a few people are paying the taxes, if only few people are paying the taxes, there will be limited revenue to the government. But if larger number of people are covered under this tax regime, obviously, though each person is paying very less, since a larger number of people are paying, that will generate a larger revenue to the government, and that will lead to the more social welfare programs in the country, and that will lead to the development of the nation. And let's hope this GST will be a good and grand success. And as the Prime Minister said, it should be very good and simple tax. Fine. So that's about the GST. And I'll see you tomorrow with more current affairs. So thank you so much for being with me this evening. And I wish you all very, 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 very good luck. So thank you so much. Take very good care of yourself. Thank you.